Good evening. If you would like to include closed captioning to this presentation, please click on the three dots found at the top of the toolbar. In the drop-down menu, select Turn on Live Captions. Welcome to Southern California Edison's Safety Community Live Stream Meeting. My name is Carolyn Sims, and I am the Senior Manager in the Customer Engagement Division for Southern California Edison. We appreciate that you took the time to participate in this evening, as well as submitting your questions when you registered for the meeting. I would also like to thank the counties, as well as our state and federal elected officials and their staff for joining us tonight. We appreciate that you always have open lines of communication, and we look forward to our ongoing partnership. Please know if you get disconnected or if you need to drop off early, this meeting is being recorded and it will be posted on our website at www.sce/wildfire. Next slide, please. As always, your feedback is extremely important to us, and we encourage you to submit questions. Because we have a large number of attendees, we will be taking questions through the chat window. You will be able to see the chat function in the toolbar. We ask that you please ask questions that are relevant to the topic and the material being presented. We would do our very best to answer as many questions as possible in the allotted time. Next slide, please. I am joined tonight by the following presenters: Craig Hart, Principal Manager of Wildfire Safety. He will share information on our wildfire mitigation activities and efforts to reduce the need for PSPS. Also, Ryan Bullard, Senior Manager of Customer PSPS Support and Accessibility, will share information on our customer care and our customer assistance programs. Next slide, please. In addition to our presenters, I am also joined tonight by the dedicated members of our local public affairs team. These individuals play a crucial role in supporting our communities during wildfire incidents and ensuring effective communication. So we have Dave Ford, who covers Los Angeles County, Jeremy Goldman for Riverside County, Melissa Boyd, San Bernardino County, Jessica Fernandez, Orange County, Natalie Yanez, Santa Barbara County, Andrew Thomas, Ventura County, Brian Thurburn, who manages Fresno, Madera, and Tulare County, Matthew Parolo, who covers Inyo, Mono, and Tullahoma County, and last but not least, Calvin Rossi for Kern County. If you have any questions or concern or need assistance related to wildfire safety, please free to reach out to any of our team members. You can find their contact information through your local community. You can also encounter them at the community events, town hall meetings, or doing outreach sessions. Don't hesitate to approach them. They are here to help. Now, before we move into our formal presentation, let's hear from one of our executives, Ray Furry, Director of Wildfire Safety. Please take it away, Ray.
Thank you, Caroline, and thank you to all our customers, community partners, and stakeholders joining us this evening. First, let me start by saying that we recognize how important it is for you and your families to have electricity. Company is focused on providing safe, reliable service to our customers and communities that we have the honor of serving. Our number one priority is public safety. As we prepare for the upcoming wildfire seasons, we want to provide you with the latest information on how we are preparing and what you can do to be prepared. During the wildfire season, we implement public safety power shutoff, or commonly referred to as PSPS, to reduce the threat of wildfires. We know you may have experienced a PSPS event in the past. We also know that these outages are painful, and we have heard your concerns. We're committed to reducing the need of PSPS outages, and we'll be sharing more information during our presentation. Today, we plan to cover these topics related to SCE's wildfire mitigation activities, how we are reducing the need for PSPS, and customer programs and services. We recognize our customers have experienced challenging times due to the ongoing threat of wildfires, and we hope you find benefit in the information and it addresses many of your questions. Next slide, please. Before we go into the full presentation, I just want to give you an overview of the scale and the size of SCE's service area, highlighting the diverse geography and terrain of our community. As you can see, we serve about 5 million customers, and that equates to about 15 million residents through over 50,000 square miles across Southern and Central California. And this goes all the way along the coast from South Orange County to Santa Barbara. And then it goes from Blythe along the border, the Arizona-Nevada border, all the way up to Mono. So this is a large area. And nothing highlights how diverse this is when you think of we have the lowest and the highest point in the continental 48 states in our service territory. And to make it more interesting, they're only 70 miles apart. So you go from a mile below sea level to several miles above. So that's how diverse our area is. And it's not just diverse by that. There's different vegetation species that we have to serve customers and communities throughout our service territory. And now over a quarter of our service territory is considered high fire areas. And we are focused on executing our comprehensive portfolio of wildfire mitigations and improving our capabilities to reduce wildfire risks. And we're doing this first and foremost to serve our customers so we can provide them safe, reliable power. And now I'm going to turn it over to Craig Hart to provide an overview of SCE's wildfire mitigation activities. Craig, take it away.
I appreciate that, Ray. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. When you look at our overall wildfire mitigation plan, you go back to what Ray was mentioning, 50,000 square miles, 27% of that is in HFRA area. We really had to take a holistic and layered approach in developing our wildfire mitigation plan with our primary objective to protect public safety. Faced with the ongoing threat of more frequent and catastrophic wildfires, California needs more resilient infrastructure. SCE continues to make the grid more resilient in high fire risk areas, improve reliability, and reduce wildfire risk through the areas listed here on this slide. When you look at high fire risk inspections, SCE performs annual inspections of equipment in high fire risk areas for maintenance, repairs, or replacement, prioritizing the highest risk structures. We annually inspect portions of our transmission and distribution equipment that comprise about 99% of wildfire risk. In wildfire and vegetation management, we continue to inspect, trim, and remove trees to prevent vegetation from coming into contact with electrical equipment and potentially sparking a fire. Tall trees that could potentially fall into power lines beyond our standard pruning zones are also assessed and mitigated. Our vegetation management work also includes vegetation removal at the poles and around power lines, as well as LiDAR surveying. With public safety power shutoffs, or PSPS, remain a tool of last resort to mitigate wildfire risk during the most severe and dangerous fuel and fire weather conditions. We recognize that these outages are difficult for our customers, and we're dedicated to reducing the size, frequency, and duration of PSPS. I'll go into more detail later on in the presentation on PSPS specifically. Next, I want to go over talk a little about situational awareness capabilities. The size of our service area and high fire risk areas and its diverse terrain requires a dense network of weather stations and wildfire cameras to monitor location-specific, real-time conditions that help inform operational decision-making. Our weather stations provide wind speed, humidity, and temperature data that updates every few minutes. The data allows more targeted de-energizations during PSPS and is accessible to the public at sce.com/weather stations. SCE generates forecasts of weather and fuel moisture conditions out to 7 days. These forecasts help identify when PSPS events may be needed, as well as when critical weather may affect the region, such as lightning, heavy rain or snow, strong winds. The live feed of the high-definition wildfire cameras in SCE's high fire risk area are part of the Alert California network. Fire agencies and the public can view the live feed to monitor wildfire conditions at alertwildfire.org. Next slide. With our hardening electric grid and infrastructure, we are continuing to use innovative tools, technologies, and practices to further protect customers and communities from the ongoing risk of wildfires. For cover conductor, we're replacing industry standard bare wire with cover conductor, one of the most effective measures to prevent potential sparking. Cover conductor significantly reduces the possibility of the power line from arcing or sparking if there's contact with a flying object like a palm frond or a balloon. We're replacing our deteriorated wood power poles with composite poles or wrapping poles with fire-resistant wrap, which reduces the risk of damaged poles during an emergency and allows us to safely restore power more quickly to customers. Our teams have also worked diligently to refine protective devices and sectionalization to reduce the number of customers who experience PSPS. We're installing fast-acting fuses to interrupt electrical current more quickly and reduce the risk of ignitions when there's an electrical fault, such as when a tree falls on a power line during high winds. We're also installing remote-controlled sectionalizing devices to segment portions of circuits during public safety power shutoffs to minimize the number of customers impacted. We've seen that undergrounding wires can reduce the frequency of outages during storms and also reduce the risk of wildfires caused by electrical infrastructure. While it takes much longer to construct and is more costly and difficult to maintain and repair, especially in mountainous and rocky terrain, SCE is committed to determine locations where targeted undergrounding can provide further wildfire risk reduction. We've completed about 26 miles of targeted undergrounding and targeted high fire risk areas based on risk criteria and feasibility, with many more miles left to come in the coming years. With REVCL, which stands for Rapid Earth Fault Current Limiters, we are implementing this more widely, especially in locations where cover conductor has already been deployed to further reduce the risk of ignitions. REVCL are systems that are widely used in Australia to reduce ignition risks. REVCL can rapidly reduce the current if a power line comes in contact with the ground or a tree limb and is therefore effective at reducing energy phase to ground faults. Next slide. We're also partnering with our local agencies. Within our SCE wildfire mitigation plan, it calls for continued support and expansion of regional fire agencies. This year, SCE is providing about $36 million to its local fire agency partners to fund the Quick Reaction Force program. This partnership with the Orange County Fire Authority, LA County Fire Department, and Ventura County Fire Department is year-round wildfire suppression across SCE's service area. The Quick Reaction Force is made up of the world's largest fire suppression helicopters, including 3 helitankers and a command and control helicopter. Its unique nighttime firefighting capability can help slow the progression of a wildfire during the early stages of a fire. Next slide. We've invested heavily in hardening our electric system in parts of our service area that pose the greatest risk. And we've seen great results from these efforts. In fact, through these efforts, we have reduced the probability of a catastrophic wildfire associated with its equipment by 85 to 88% since 2018. This is a significant improvement within a short period of time. SCE has achieved this reduction by implementing several important wildfire mitigations in our high fire risk areas over the past 5 to 6 years. Last year, we've installed over 1,220 circuit miles of cover conductor. As the end of the first quarter, we've installed a total of more than 5,700 circuit miles, covering about 60% of our SCE overhead distribution lines in high fire risk areas. This is longer than the distance between Los Angeles and London. And we're installing another 1,050 circuit miles this year. Since 2018, we've completed more than 2 million tree trims and removals to prevent trees and vegetation from coming into contact with power lines and equipment. We've also conducted more than 1 million inspections of our equipment in high fire risk areas from the ground and by air using helicopters and drones to determine if repairs are needed, prioritizing the riskiest areas every year. We've also installed more than 1,740 weather stations, 190 plus HD cameras throughout our service area. With all of our grid hardening work, we saw no ignitions due to failure of cover conductor last year. We've also seen 92% less PSPS outage time in 2023 compared to 2020. In terms of customer support, when there is a PSPS, we have 68 community resource centers and 8 community crew vehicles available. To support our customers who are most vulnerable, we also provide free critical care backup batteries to our medical baseline customers. As mentioned on the previous slide, the Quick Reaction Force provides year-round wildfire suppression across the service area. Last year, we responded to 64 unique fires in SCE service area and dropped nearly 840,000 gallons of water and over 95,000 gallons of fire retardant at night. Next slide. So looking ahead, by the end of 2025, we expect to be approaching 90% of total distribution lines hardened in our high fire risk area. About 7,300 miles in our high fire risk areas are already underground. And in the past several years, we've proactively hardened about 5,700 miles of our overhead lines, primarily through cover conductor. We're planning to harden an additional 2,800 miles by the end of 2025 through cover conductor and undergrounding. Next slide. Next, I'm going to touch briefly about our public safety power shutoffs. So our PSPS continues to be our tool of last resort. It's not in our DNA to turn power off, and we try to de-energize as few customers as possible for a short period of time as required. We also pre-place our teams in the field to inspect and restore power as quickly as possible once the risks have died down. And before we turn power off, we actually run a risk calculator to make sure that turning off power is going to provide more community safety than keeping power on. SCE also uses forecasts of weather and fuel moisture conditions out to 7 days to help identify when PSPS events may be needed. After PSPS events, SCE crews have found equipment damage and tree branches contacting bare power lines without a protective coating, which could have ignited fires. This illustrates the importance of PSPS outages and installing coated electrical wire to continue reducing PSPS events. We continue to reduce the size, frequency, and duration of PSPS events as more wildfire mitigations are implemented. We reduce the number of customers in scope for PSPS through our grid hardening efforts. We've also improved weather and fuel forecasting accuracy and precision. This has been done by expanding a number of our machine learning forecasting locations. We've also been retraining machine learning models with newer observations and better input, developing machine learning models for additional weather variables, and continue to look for innovative ways to address forecast uncertainty, including by use of machine learning and additional forecast models. Next slide. If you're familiar with PSPS, you know that we send customers who might be in scope for de-energization a series of notifications starting 2 or 3 days out. We then continue to notify these customers as the weather system approaches to keep them informed. Notifications are provided via email, text, voice call, and TTY formats and address level alerts. As long as we're not faced with a sudden change in weather, we notify customers up to 4 hours in advance of shutoffs, when we shut off power and as we prepare to re-energize. It's a complex cadence of notifications made more complex by the work we do to try to avoid shutoffs. For more information, I encourage you to please visit sce.com/PSPS decision making, all one word. There you can find a fact sheet and a technical paper about how we decide when and where to shut off power. Next slide. Southern California Edison uses different platforms to communicate to customers, communities, public safety partners, and other residents in affected areas before, during, and after a shutoff. We encourage all of our customers to update their account information as well as manage their outage notifications in the Customer Preference Center. The SCE Consolidated Outage Map is also available on sce.com, which includes current outages, upcoming scheduled outages, and active PSPS. Lastly, we understand PSPS disrupts the lives of our customers and communities. And in Ryan's section, he'll talk more about the resources available to help customers prepare for and get through PSPS safely. Thank you very much. I'll hand it off to you, Ryan.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate the handoff. And I do see a number of questions in the chat that will hopefully be addressed here as a part of this actual presentation. So we will also provide some links to make sure that we're addressing your questions. So if I don't see it in the part of this presentation, please keep asking. We will make sure we get a response to all of you. So diving into PSPS outreach and customer support, we actually provide quite a wide variety of different efforts to help mitigate the impacts of PSPS activations on our customers. We understand that these events have challenges and definitely affect those with access and functional needs, and we want to make sure that we have the ability to provide support for all of our customers and make sure we have additional concentration on those that are particularly maybe more vulnerable or need additional accommodations. And so some of the ways that we do that are through our community resource centers and community crew vehicles. Craig touched a little bit on this, and we'll go into more detail on each of these through the rest of the presentation. We also provide a access and functional needs supervisor as a part of our PSPS activations that helps engage and work with customers, as well as make sure that we're partnering with our community-based organizations to make sure that they're up to speed with the event and being able to handle any escalations that may come in as a part of these PSPS events. We do additional activities around our customers that qualify for our medical baseline program. As Craig mentioned, we do offer a number of notifications, and in the event that that notification doesn't go through within a certain time frame, we will actually do things as far as having a field service representative go knock on the door of the individual's household to make sure that they're aware of the event. We also provide a number of support efforts for our public safety partners and critical infrastructure customers, as well as our CBOs, by providing a number of different avenues to interact with them, as well as access to a public safety partner portal to help provide more granular information for those individuals. And so we'll go through in the next part of the presentation about our community-based organization activities and the batteries that I know that a number of folks have particularly asked for. So if we go on the next slide, we can dive a little deeper into some of these activities. So first off, a community resource center and community crew vehicle is a place for Edison to be in the community that's impacted by a PSPS activation and make sure that we can support our customers so they have a place to go where there is energy available, or we can provide backup power to these types of facilities to make sure that customers have a place to change their outage alert, enroll in different programs, provide access to water, snacks, or other types of resiliency items available for individuals. We do provide some additional accommodations for those with access and functional needs, including wheelchairs and privacy screens, as well as the ability to support service animals. We recognize that Edison has a very diverse service area, and so we want to make sure that we have translation services available for a lot of these facilities and making sure that we cover a wide breadth. We can actually translate for over 120 different languages, including American Sign Language. Next, we'll dive a little bit into customer programs that you'll see in actual PSPS activation. We do have the ability to provide referrals for customers for things such as food banks, as well as our partnership with 211. Individuals can pick up the phone, dial 211, and be able to get access and referral to a variety of services, whether it's shelf-stable food, hot meal delivery, or transportation, and even temporary lodging if a PSPS activation is affecting the area. Additionally, we've launched our Disability Disaster Access and Resource program in partnership with the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers. And this is really an additional layer of support for customers to make sure that those individuals that may be electrically dependent for their medical equipment or developmental support have the ability to get an emergency plan, access to additional resources, including batteries, to support them through the duration of a PSPS event. So we are continuously offering more programs and resources, as well as improving our efforts by broadening our communication access, including American Sign Language, not just for community meetings and notification, but as well as marketing videos or other notifications that might be beneficial for customers. We do offer a number of customer resiliency equipment related to batteries. I will give a flyby here, and then we'll do a deeper dive in some subsequent slides. So we do have the fully subsidized critical care battery backup program that is available for individuals that are in medical baseline and in high fire risk areas. And we also have a number of rebates on portable batteries and generators for customers. I think that was a specific question. Marketplace can take you to that place where you can see a list of eligible generators and batteries for consideration that help meet your need depending on your power needs. A lot of those activities for those battery programs are oriented toward being proactive and making sure that we have the ability to reach a customer and prepare them ahead of a PSPS event. In the event that the customer was not able to reach out ahead of time or is unprepared, they can actually call 211, and we have the ability to launch an in-event loan battery this upcoming season to help support and deliver a battery to a customer impacted by a PSPS activation during an event, right? So instead of filling out a rebate and then enrolling in the program, you can actually call 211, have a battery, and then after the battery is taken back, we can help enroll you with a longer term accommodation. Next, we can go into the next set of programs. This is going to cover quite a few programs and rates, if you will. If we go to the next slide. And so we have care and fairer rates that are discount programs that are really designed to help individuals that might be experiencing financial hardship to reduce their bills. Some care customers can see reductions of about 30% depending on income qualification. The FARA rate program you can see there also has reductions depending on the size of your house. And so there's quite easy ways to apply that are listed on the screen. And Care FARA customers are also members of the AFN community that we want to be able to make sure that we can support during PSPS activations, because we do know that sometimes you might have to move around or make additional accommodations that aren't quite easy if there's some financial hardship. Next, we can talk about complementary programs to the Care and FARA program. We'll go through these next two slides fairly quickly. The first one is the LIHEAP program. This is a low-income home energy assistance program. It is administered by the Community Services Department, and it's really a federal program aimed at helping low-income households with either energy assistance, energy crisis intervention, or even doing some low-income weatherization program. A lot of these enrollments can happen concurrently. To be able to qualify for one of these programs, you'll be automatically eligible for these other programs. For example, if you do the LIHEAP program, you can use that as income qualification for our energy savings assistance program to layer on additional energy efficiency benefits for your household. And finally, in the income space, we do have the Energy Assistance Fund, which we'll talk about on the next slide, which is an additional program that's designed to help income qualified residential households pay their electric bill. There are maximum amounts of this. About 10,000 families do receive this support, and it's funded entirely through voluntary donations from SE employees and shareholders and customers. And so There's a website listed there for folks that would be able to qualify for or request access for the Energy Assistance Fund program. Next, we will go into the medical baseline program, and I think this will be a good place for us to maybe make sure we're taking time to digest what's on the slide here, because I think it will answer a lot of questions about batteries and where free batteries may apply. So the medical baseline program is for residential customers who rely on power to operate medical device equipment for certain conditions or who have mobility needs. So this could be like a mobile scooter or something that is like something that can help with sleep apnea, maybe like a CPAP machine. What we would like to just pause and say is that don't disqualify yourself. Make sure that you do apply if you feel like you have an income or a medical device that qualifies. And even if you don't see it on the list, it's still a worthy activity to submit an application because we're always constantly improving and learning for our programs. And so we make this available obviously through community outreach events like this, but we also work with a number of community and faith-based organizations in order to help train and make this available for individuals and help enroll them in the program. It does require a doctor's signature. And so that is often one of the more time-consuming components associated with this program. It does have the ability to do a self-certification component to it, where you can apply for self-certification. You'll be enrolled in that characterization and eventually give you some time to enroll in the medical baseline program. And so this is a great program that helps provide a little bit of a discount for or I should say a credit for medical device consumption. We do recognize that electrically dependent medical devices consume energy, so we don't want to make that a burden, and we provide some accommodations through our medical baseline program. And this is the program that really drives and helps us identify customers that we would do additional outreach towards during our notifications of PSPS events. Where we might see a missed notification in the community and we would send out someone to go knock on this individual's door to make sure that they're aware of the PSPS event and that they have the resources they need in order to work through the duration of the event and mitigate the impacts of a PSPS event. So we can go to the next slide. This will talk a little bit about how do you apply. There's kind of a few ways you could do it. You can either apply online. If you want to print out an application, that's also available, as well be able to just calling our customer service to be able to request an application to be mailed. So there's a lot of varieties to be able to fill this out. Please rely on caretakers or family members or others that may be able to help kind of work through the application process. It does require a qualified medical provider signature, as mentioned before. And so the application for enrollment is processed typically within 30 days of receipt, because we really want to make sure that we're urgently enrolling folks in our MBL program and making sure that they're being able to be identified prior to going into a PSPS season. Next, we can talk a little bit about the critical care battery backup battery program. So this is for customers who are enrolled in medical baseline allowance and reside in a high fire risk area can receive a free portable backup battery to temporarily power medical devices in the event of an outage or other emergencies. I think the thing to really focus on here is temporary. A lot of these batteries are mobile. I think that was a question I saw in the chat. So they are portable in some capacity, and just make sure that you're very aware of the limitations and the ability of the battery to sustain for extended period of time. So just definitely something we work to make sure that everyone's aware of the battery capacity and typically try to decide for a few hours of support during a PSPS activation. If longer support is needed, we do encourage folks to call 211 to help provide additional accommodations in a more long term. So I think a few questions might follow up to say, well, what if I don't qualify for medical baseline, or if I don't have the ability to enroll in this free battery program? The next slide is really what covers the options available for some of those folks, where you have portable power stations and generator rebates on the next slide listed in SCE's marketplace, to be able to provide some longer or some additional generator options for individuals that may not qualify for medical baseline activities. And so I think either the slide isn't moving forward, or yeah, thank you. So SE Marketplace offers those rebates for customers in an HFRA who purchase a resiliency product. So there are rebates of $150 if you do have some additional qualifications. You can receive higher rebate amounts, and you can also get some multiple rebates per account if you need different abilities or different generators at your site. And so I think this PowerPoint will be sent out, and these links are able to be utilized in order to help get you the ability to participate in these programs or enroll in these programs as necessary. And I think we have a list of resources on the next slide, but I will hand it back to Carolyn to kind of close this out here.
Thank you, Ryan, for that. So we have some additional actions you can take to be prepared. So we have a website, sce.com Wildfire, and that's where you can get information on all of the resources related to wildfire and PSPS. If you have any questions, you can contact us by email, social media, or by phone. And also for information about the grid hardening activities in our county, you can visit on.sce.com Wildfire Progress Report, all one word, Wildfire Progress Report, and you can get status information there. You can also check and verify that you signed up for the PSPS alerts. You can update your contact information and just make sure that you're reviewing all of the programs that Ryan just went over to make sure that you sign up for them if you qualify for them, especially if you have or you're dependent on electronically powered medical equipment. You may be eligible for that medical baseline program that he mentioned, which again provides a discount off your bill, and the critical care backup battery program, which is the free portable battery. There's also additional rebates and incentives that's also on the website. As you know, an emergency can happen at any time. And you can help your family by being prepared with an emergency preparedness plan. You want to make sure that you have some of the basic supplies and that you do advanced planning. So whether it's a pandemic, an earthquake, or wildfire preparedness, we want to help make sure that you are better prepared to cope with the situation and that you are remaining safe. So this concludes the formal portion of our presentation. And so now we'll go into our Q&A segment. And as a reminder, this is how you can submit your questions if you have not already done so by clicking on the three dots, going to the chat, placing your question there. And so we will now address some of the questions that have come in, which I know some Brian and has already addressed, but we'll go through them one by one and make sure we get them all covered. So the first question that I see here is there a map that shows the areas previously affected by the emergency power shutoff areas? So there is a link that can be provided. So there's not one single map that has all of this information. But if you look at the post reports that's on the websites that we mentioned, the sce.com/wildfire, previous reports are there. And in those reports are all the information around the maps. So you can find the information there. The second question that I see is about the rebates on the batteries. I think Ryan addressed that. And then what we just shared about the websites that you can go to, the own.sce. You should be able to get all the information that you need there for the battery backup storage. There's a question here about what SCE is doing about the theft of copper wiring and securing the lines and locations. Does SCE engage with an arborist and the like when reshaping landscape and the geography and animal habitat? So I know that SCE does work with law enforcement as it relates to the copper theft. And we do work with we work with an arborist, a certified arborist, and they also do vegetation management work. And I'll pause and see if anyone has anything else they would like to add on this particular question. A response? Okay. And we do have a link that we can place in the chat with some information where you can go and receive more information on how we protect and restore the areas. The next question has to do with if SCE has done, let's see, if SCE has done so much work to enhance wildfire risk, when will the property insurance industry recognize and give homeowners a break? So that particular one, I think that's kind of outside of our scope for this particular meeting. We did receive a comment and some feedback on, reducing the acronym. So thank you so much for that feedback, and we will take that and incorporate for our next upcoming meetings. There was also the average there was a question around the cost of undergrounding. And it looks like, so the question is, what is the average cost per mile for undergrounding based on 26 miles already completed? And the undergrounding cost is about 2.9 million to 4.5 million per mile. And we do have more information in a fact sheet and a link that we can place in the chat. That website is www.sce.com/tug, TUG. I think this one has been answered, but the question is, will SCE provide a printout of this chat session transcript of the Q&As? So this session is being recorded. So all of the information will be uploaded to the website within a few days after this meeting. And again, the previous link where you can go and see previous recordings and information. Let's see. So there was a question. I'm sorry, I'm just going through here. Just find it. So I think Susanna had a question. I think for that particular one, yes, Suzanne, for that particular one, if you can send us an email with some additional information, and then we can respond to your question. The next question I see here is, do you recommend to install standby sources of power, like generators and battery systems? So I think Ryan went through the benefits of having, the battery backup power, but I'll pause here and see if there's additional responses that we would like to provide to this question. Ray?
I'm gonna actually put a link in the chat for I think the question you asked about, so that they can actually get support and talk with someone about which battery would be best for them. But sorry, I was filling that out. So when I put it in the chat, make sure it was a question you were asking me to answer.
Got it, I believe so. Okay. Sorry, I'm just reviewing. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing any of the questions. We do say, so the one question around, maybe having the power, the battery generators, we do ask customers to make sure that they rely on power. For medical equipment, we advise that you have at least a minimum of 2 hours of backup power. So keep that in mind as you're doing your emergency preparedness. So there's another question. I live in a high fire risk area. How can I learn which of the mitigation efforts outlined have been implemented in my area? So I'll turn that one over maybe to Craig.
Yeah, give me 1 minute here.
Sorry.
Give me 1 second. I'm just gathering some
Oh,
information.
okay. So while he's looking at that, I'll go to the.
Yeah, so
Oh, go ahead.
so Carolyn, so our wildfire mitigation progress is broken up by county. It's available on the SC Wildfire Mitigation County Progress Report 2023 at edison.com.
Thank you. The next
And
question.
we'll include the link in the chat.
And we'll put all of the links that have been mentioned too. The next question is, I live in Calabasas and my neighborhood has found the outage map frequently fails to show outages in our neighborhood, even hours after the outages. When they search using the home address, it doesn't help. Why is this? Should I have to take that one, Craig? So I do know for the website, we are improving the mapping to provide more timely information, and there are updates that we are making to the map. And let's see.
I think Laura was asking a question, Carolyn, if you don't mind.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I can see it.
Yeah, so there was a question about asking for support in the San Bernardino Mountain communities and the customer resource centers that they didn't have open during the blizzards in 2023. Is this a new support resource? And so I can add from the customer perspective, and then Craig, I don't know if you want to add after that, but so a lot of the resources that we just talked about are for PSPS activation specifically. So under PSPS conditions, it's very hot, dry vegetation that pose a fire risk. And so when we have to de-energize, that's when we open up the community resource centers. In that particular instance, obviously that's sort of a natural disaster occurrence versus Edison premature or preactive turning off power to avoid fire risk and things of that nature. And so we work with our county Office of Emergency Services partners and make sure we talk about the ability to open warming centers up in the mountains where possible. Obviously, that is a little bit outside of our jurisdiction, and actually one of the biggest barriers for us, like opening a community resource center, is there was actually a state of emergency, I believe, filed during that time that actually limited transportation ability to even go up the mountain to just sort of essential use trucks and obviously like police and fire safety partners. And so we couldn't actually get our community resource centers open and send up our Edison employees to those centers at that time. So we work with our county OES partners to try and provide, make sure that those cool warming centers and things of that nature might be available.
Hey, Caroline, I saw a couple of questions I wanted to provide responses to.
Okay.
I don't think we got to this one. It says, I believe that the area in which I live definitely should have the power lines undergrounded. How do I find out whether this area should be underground? There's a targeted undergrounding county map that's been updated as of March of 2024 at sce.com, which we could put that link in the chat. And then there was one other question from Susan talking about, we are in the highest fire hazard zone next to the National Forest. We've repeatedly asked for cover conductors. We were assured 3 years ago that this was a priority, but no upgrades to cover conductor have been made. What is the plan to do so in the nearest future? Susan, if you could email us, maybe kind of location where you live, we can look into that and get back to you on more information. Appreciate you raising that question, though. Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Okay, so maybe I think you just answered the one about the mountain. Okay, I see one here. The Tesla backup switch has been available for 1 to 2 years. And this is a great product, yet SCE will not approve its installation. I don't know if we have any input on that. So we'll
I think you would have to go through our SCHIP program because it's probably a Rule 21 issue. So we can drop the link for the SCHIP program that kind of goes through those types of configurations and discussions. Primarily, I know when we look at stuff like batteries and solar generation on houses, we have to make sure that it doesn't backfeed on the grid and cause a safety hazard, obviously. So I'm sure that there's ways that they've had to work with that, and I would recommend going through the sort of SCHIP process.
Does Edison have control of my virtual? Okay, I think that kind of goes back with the Tesla. Last week, there was an active event drain to power on the grid. And just be, again, battery backup storage. Okay, we talked about the undergrounding of the power lines. How do I get battery? Okay, I think we talked about that. This person says they have a CPAP machine.
Sorry, I think I heard you say CPAP machine. That would be a good instance where the customer should look at enrolling in our medical baseline program to be able to see what types of support that you can also get in addition to that, right? Obviously, once you qualify for the medical baseline program, and I believe a CPAP machine does qualify, you can then enroll for things like our critical care battery backup program, get elevated rebates for backup storage or generator options to help with that.
The next question I see, let's see. Who determines where the high fire risk areas are and the risk levels? And so that would be the California Public Utilities Commission defines the high fire risk areas. And so we have a link that we can share as well, which will take you to the site with all of the fire maps. Okay. SCE, so the question is SCE involved in a solar program for homeowners as a primary and or backup emergency source? And so I think Ryan had just kind of mentioned earlier the SCHIP program with the Tesla response. So SCE offers generation incentives, and then there's an eligibility criteria. So we can also put this link in the chat where you can learn more about that program. Here's a question comment. It says, I'm disabled and on a care program. I'm in the highest fire risk area. I have difficulty getting in touch with staff for the clarity I need before choosing and procuring a portable battery backup that I qualify for. And then where do I find out the fire hazard that I'm in? So I think we shared the information on how to get the battery. We have additional information there, and then also on the fire zones. So when we put that link, it'll show you, which fire hazard you're in as well. Anything else you wanted to add, Ryan?
Yeah, I just wanted to encourage that customer to, we dropped a link into our Disability Disaster Access and Resource Program, and that should be able to connect you to a local independent living center that can really help come up with a more comprehensive assessment of emergency planning, but also has the ability to determine whether help you enroll in any programs, but also determine if you would qualify for a backup battery that they also have access to. And so that link in the chat, I think, would be beneficial to go through in order to connect you with the right folks and have sort of a one-stop shop to not just get your battery question answered, but also be able to get a comprehensive emergency plan so you can figure out what to do if you need something longer than a mobile battery might be able to provide.
Okay, let's see here. Is there an SCE email address where customers can put, they're asking for the email address to be put in the chat to send the detailed questions. So we'll make sure that we get that email in the chat. This has to do with, I'm sorry. The question is, we have a sewer lift station for 40 homes. And can they be exempt from PSPS? So if you can email us, then we can get you detailed response to that question. Sorry, I'm just scanning to make sure I haven't missed any questions. Regarding the San Bernardino Mountain community, I think there was a little follow-up question that they felt like they needed. So during the blizzard in 2023, is this a new support resource? This was when Brian was presenting about the CRCs.
Yeah, and Carolyn, we talked a little bit about the differences between PSPS events and when it's something like a blizzard that isn't necessarily utility driven. I think we answered that one already.
Okay, thank you. We talked about the sewer. Let's see, the question here is, SCE was great about trimming, tree trimming to keep those away from the lines. Does SCE partner with any resource providers for people with limited mobility to help with other dry fuel, such as yards? And
No, the only thing we do, Caroline, is obviously we do maybe structure brushing on our structures, but when it comes to people's yards, we don't do that. So I would recommend that customer reach out to their city to see if there's any support that they can receive from the city, or if they have any contact information.
okay. So there was a follow-up question from the person who was asking about the Calabasas outages. And they want to know if there's someone at SCE that can address the apparently chronic problem with outages in his neighborhood, and the map, not showing on the map and not being reported. So is there someone, is that working with the GRM that could help them with that?
Is that We probably need to get more information if that's the outage map in general, not just PSPS. But it's something that I think Jude can take back to her team and maybe look into further.
Thank you. And I think if you want to also, for that person, send us an email with your address, then we can do some additional to that. Okay, let's see, did I miss any question? Okay. Does SCE have control over, oh, okay, we talked about that one. Okay, I think we got through the questions, the responses that we mentioned, in responding to the questions about the various links. Those will be placed in the chat if they're not already there. Oh, I see one question here. I would like to know if there has been progress in the interagency communication and their ability to work together. My mother and 2 grandkids, oh, I'm so sorry, a fire situation, and it was out of control because the county didn't respond properly and the city didn't respond. And the delay was a tremendous contributing factor. So I'm wondering if this has been fixed in that area. So I'll leave it to Craig if you want to share more about like how we partner in the event of a PSPS with the counties, or if anyone wants to jump in on that. But I know when we send up a PSPS, we do have partnership calls.
Yeah, I think with that one, Caroline, it'd be best if they inquire with their local government. Does anybody else have additional information to add to that?
Yeah, I would say more probably broadly, as part of our incident management team, we do have regular check-ins with our county officials, state officials, and community-based organization partners on a daily basis to try and make sure that we're closing any of those gaps and making sure that if there's any resource needs that are needed either by the county that Edison might be able to help with, making sure that we're communicating who is responsible for what as part of those daily coordination calls. And so that is an area where we're always continuing to refine and make sure that we have the ability to reach out to our local government partners in any instance, whether it's PSPS or other natural disaster type of scenarios as well.
Okay, let's see, Craig, are there any other questions that in the chat you would like to address?
Reviewing, I don't see any.
Okay. Okay, so we are responding again with the various links to some of the questions to make sure that you have that information as an additional follow-up. Again, this recording will be available. You also have our email address where you can, contact us. And if there aren't any other questions here, we ask that you can, scan this link here to receive additional information. Again, follow up with us. And I'll give it one last pause to see if there's anything else.
Yeah, sorry, I think you just pointed out that we had one question around virtual power plants. I think that is agreements typically between, this is regarding to a virtual power plant. It appears to refer to their Tesla battery where they had an active event which drains your battery to put electricity back on the grid. And so typically that's a customer volunteering to participate and give control, as an example, to their battery provider that has a partnership with Edison typically. And so being able to get the benefits from the dispatch of that virtual power plant, as an example, is sort of where the agreement between how it's operated between you and Tesla probably in that case. So there's sort of three parties involved, but it's most likely a scenario where you have an agreement with the provider, and the provider has an agreement with Edison. So making sure that we're aware of sort of the operating parameters of those types of programs, I think is important to make sure is doing what you intend to do, which is capturing benefits from utilizing your Tesla power pack versus having to go and use some electricity at a higher time rate. So it's a tricky question. I'd hope we can address a little bit of that, but I definitely would encourage you to talk through that with sort of your virtual power plant operator to make sure that you're getting the type of support you want and your equipment's being operated in the way that you deem appropriate.
Okay, so I want to thank everyone for your participation this evening. And again, using the QR code on the screen, feel free to complete the survey and provide your feedback about this evening's event. In addition, the survey link and presentation will be emailed to everyone who registered to attend this event. This meeting was recorded, and again, we will post a recording on our website in a few days at sce.com/wildfire, as well as other information and resources. Some of the links that we also provided in the chat, those things. And we look forward to seeing you out in the community. And thank you again, and have a wonderful evening.